Die Wahrscheinlichkeit ist groß, dass es auch. So you want to find out what the best way to learn a language is. You've probably looked up tons of books trying to see, is this the right one? This methodology. Your Google search history probably entails something like best method for memorizing vocabulary, what's the best method to learn a language, how should I go about it? But truth be told, you don't need all of that stuff. What you actually need to know is that everything that is stopping you from achieving your goals, not only in language learning, but actually in every other realm of your life, has nothing to do with a book or a method, but everything to do with something up here. No, it's not your brain, it's not your IQ, it's got to do with your belief system. And I know it sounds crazy, but bear with me on this one. Basically, everything we do, every decision we make has got to do with our belief system. And when I think about it, it's actually kind of true. So after having been teaching languages for over 4 years now, I've seen a very common pattern among not only my students, but also people that I see comments from on YouTube, people that I meet in everyday life, and you kind of notice a pattern about the types of beliefs that they have. So in this video today, I want to knock all of these beliefs out. I want to change some of your perceptions on language learning and get rid of those limiting beliefs that are common amongst 99% of language learners. So let's start with the first one. The first one that comes to mind is also, in my opinion, the most important one, and it's the belief that language learning is something that you do separately and it's not something that you involve in your kind of everyday life, which is completely false. But yet you see so many people that have this idea that language learning is something just for the classroom. It's something that you do when you're with your teacher, or it's something that you do when you are in a classroom setting and you need like a scheduled set defined time to do it. But this is completely not true. And to be honest, this is probably the biggest difference that I noticed between my classmates in high school and at university, even in primary school to be honest, who were, more successful in their language learning and their studies and really excelled compared to the other students who kind of just showed up to class, had no idea what was going on, didn't do their homework, and it was generally because they thought that language learning was just a separate thing. But to be honest, learning happens everywhere. Learning happens for me in my everyday life when I'm simply texting someone, and on a daily basis I'll be using Russian or Spanish, Latvian, English, German, all of those languages. Die Wahrscheinlichkeit ist groß, dass es auch auf Ihrem Gebiet jemanden gibt. Paulo, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué estás haciendo hoy día? Сначала как ответ? Нет, я не знаю почему. When I'm replying to my comments on YouTube and I don't understand a particular word, or I'm watching a YouTube video and I need to kind of translate something, that's where language learning comes in. And that is learning. So the key thing to take away from this point is that language learning happens in your everyday life, that you need to mix it in with things that you do every day, and you'll also notice that your motivation increases and it's going to feel a lot easier than if you kind of feel like it's this massive burden that you have and that you need to have a separate time that you do it in your everyday life or in your week. But instead of that, remember to involve it as an everyday activity. Now, this next common mistake and misbelief that people have has to do with advanced learners. And it's when you kind of reach maybe a B1 level, a B2 level, and you get really comfortable with the phrases that you've always been using. And you get to this level where you are scared to kind of, level up. And the key takeaway from that is really, when you get to that advanced level, don't stick to your comfort zone. I know it's going to feel weird, and especially when you kind of start, going into the realm of using tricky vocabulary and words that you normally wouldn't use. That's where you really need to push yourself a bit more. Step out of your comfort zone. And a good tip for this is reading. For example, when I got to that level and it was kind of where I felt like I need to do actually extra work now to keep up my German level and to keep increasing it, and if I don't do that then my level is going to sink, and I found myself really kind of just feeling kind of trapped. I was sticking to all of the phrases that I was just so used to using, and I would be able to understand everything that native speakers were saying and even the kind of more complex phrases, but when it came to me using them, I wasn't there yet where I was pushing myself. And once I did that and I started to use more difficult terms, or in that sense using more synonyms for different words that I was already used to, that's where my level really increased. So if you're an advanced learner in a language, my key tip is start reading more, start consuming more native speaker content, use that as a source to improve your own speaking skills and, you know, your writing skills as well, and just general comprehension. So the next key misbelief is not seeing the importance of pronunciation. A lot of people kind of just go into language learning and go, okay, I'm going to learn a few words and I'll just listen to them, or, you know, I'm going to be using flashcards or reading a course book and that's how I'm going to learn the language. And they don't actually really put that much emphasis on pronunciation. And honestly, I can't tell you enough how important pronunciation is. The key to language, you know, why we learn a language is so we can communicate and so we can speak. And honestly, as kind of annoying as it can be, it actually really makes a difference if you pronounce things properly versus if you don't. Especially when you're traveling to a country and you need to speak the language there, people will automatically react differently to you if they can understand you, if you can pronounce things properly. And it really just gives you a richer experience in the country. And, you know, accents are fine, and, you know, also obviously you want to be proud of the fact that where you're from, and kind of, we're not masking that at all, but it's more about having that feeling like, oh my gosh, I fit in, I belong here. And no one wants to feel, you know, like that uncomfortable foreigner that no one can understand. And it really makes a difference, because I'm sure we've all experienced that discomfort or that just kind of annoying feeling when you're talking to someone in their native language and you want to practice the language and they just reply back to you in English or in a different language, and you just think, why am I really just that shit? But anyway, so that's why the first thing that you do, you need to focus on pronunciation and the alphabet. So a way that I do this is by using these flashcards. So you'll see I have written kind of the Swedish sounds. For example, didn't know that K was pronounced sh before E, I, Y, E, O. And you can also find a lot of activities where you have, like, for example, for Spanish diphthongs, and kind of just exercises to listen to them and to also pronounce them after the native speakers. So this is definitely a super valuable activity, and you need to do it so that you actually just can speak properly. That's all I'm going to say. Now the next thing is, people play it way too safe and are really scared to actually start speaking a language. And many fall into the trap of thinking that they need to reach a certain level, or they need to just, you know, stick to their grammar books until their grammar is super, super good. And once that's the case, then they should start speaking. And honestly, I feel like I have like this kind of, I don't know, like a rattle in me that just needs to be shaken up if I'm not kind of speaking, because, well, my personal goal is always to be able to, of course, speak as soon as possible. Okay, so the next two I'm going to combine, because one is kind of more personal that I was faced with, and the next one is one that I just have to sigh every time I hear it. So the first one is a personal one, and it's kind of funny, but it just goes to show that your mind is such a powerful thing, and that really, whatever thoughts you have, whatever beliefs you have, they're gonna come true. So what I mean by this is, there's a very, very famous quote, and it goes, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So if you think you can do something, you definitely can, because you're gonna find a way on how to do it, because subconsciously you've already made the decision that you're gonna go and do it. And then if you think you can't do it, your brain is automatically like geared towards finding excuses and reasons as to why you're not gonna do it, and kind of, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. My story was when I could speak only, I know, but I could only speak 5 languages, and it was kind of at the end of my really years of university, when I was advanced already in French and Spanish and German, and the ones that I'd been focusing on for like 4 years. And I really wanted to start a new language. I was like, okay, well, I can speak 5. I've kind of been stuck on 5. I really want something new. I want a new challenge. And no joke, I actually had the belief that I had reached my brain's like full capacity and I couldn't learn another language. That was it, kind of. I was actually scared to be honest. And Then I read a couple of articles and, you know, kind of about your brain and that there are never-ending possibilities on how much you can learn. And that's just one of those beliefs, like, don't restrict yourself. If you think you can, you really can. Like many people, even linguists that I had, like my linguistic professors told me you could never learn a language to a native speaker level, and I did that. There you go. I mean, sure, the level might change from time to time, but I reached that point. So really, guys, just keep in mind, I don't care what anybody else says. It only matters that you say that you can, and what you think and what you believe is most important. And the final thing is I'm not bashing anyone here, but it's just, we need to set this straight. The belief that you can learn a language just from Duolingo. Duolingo, any app, any exposure that you get to a language, it's great, it's fantastic, I'm glad you're doing it. But guys, you will not learn a language just from Duolingo. You need extra grammar practice. You need other resources where you actually see native speakers speaking. You need to get that speaking practice, and you need to just have a variety of resources. Duolingo is great as a starting platform, just like Memrise, but it's not going to teach you a language. It's a game app, essentially. You know, it's there for novelty, and it does teach you some things. I'm not saying it doesn't, but if you think that you're going to learn like a language entirely from Duolingo, you're not. You need to use a number of resources, and you need to keep a variety in there. So if you're starting to kind of feel bored with your learning, it's time to mix things up and make it more fun for yourself. So those were the limiting beliefs. Remember, guys, you can do anything that you set your mind to. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, abonniert mein Kanal, and I will see you in my next video. Bis dann, à la prochaine, see you soon.
Let's be honest, we've all dreamed of being a super famous singer or rapper or musician at some point in our lives. I remember writing my first song with friends when I was 9. I've taken my karaoke skills and singing in the shower to something more. Language learning plus music. This is how it goes.